I supported her blog, but she called herself single on Livestream. I didn't pay much attention to my wife's blog when she first started it. It was one of those modern passion projects, relationship psychology with a feminine lens, or something along those lines. She'd explain it to friends with elegant phrasing, a mix of empowerment and emotional wellness. To me, it always sounded like she was recording advice for women who were tired of dating boys and wanted to land a man. She even joked once that she was trying to bring back the lost art of being a good wife. I never found that funny, but I didn't push it. We had an understanding. She had her thing. I had mine. She filmed. I worked. And it stayed like that for months. I'd come home from long shifts and see her adjusting her softbox lights or testing sound levels on a new microphone. Sometimes she'd be sitting on the floor with her laptop, headphones in, quietly mouthing her script. I never asked what it was about. It just seemed like a harmless outlet. She wasn't out drinking, partying, or flirting with strangers. She was at home, in sweatpants, editing monologues. If anything, I felt proud of her. It looked peaceful, productive, almost noble. But I never actually watched what she created. I don't even think I knew her YouTube channel name until much later. And maybe that was my mistake. It wasn't that I didn't care. I just didn't think it was for me. The whole aesthetic screamed soft focus advice columns and emotional healing, which, as a guy who worked long hours in construction management, didn't exactly match my podcast rotation. I assumed it was meant for women. That was the first assumption that would blow up in my face. The night everything changed was a Tuesday. Nothing special. She'd gone to dinner with a friend, and I stayed back to rest. I had a mild headache, so I skipped the gym and just crashed on the couch. Her laptop was open on the kitchen island, still plugged in from earlier, and a notification chimed. It was a YouTube comment popping up on the screen. I didn't mean to snoop. I was just going to close the window. But then I saw the thumbnail. A still image of her, soft smile, hair tucked behind her ear, glowing from perfect lighting. The title read, "What Real Men Want in a Wife, and Why Women Keep Missing It." I hesitated. Then I clicked, just for curiosity. 5 seconds in, I sat up. 10 seconds in, I muted the TV. By the 1-minute mark, I was fully locked in. My wife was sitting in our living room, same couch I'd just been on, speaking with a calm, tender voice. She talked about how modern women had lost the ability to nurture, how real strength came from submission, patience, and respect. Your husband should never feel like he has to compete with you, she said, smiling softly. A woman's role isn't to control, it's to comfort. If he leads well, let him. If he doesn't, help him grow, but never by shaming him. It was surreal. She was saying things I never heard her say in private. At home, she could be sharp, dismissive, easily irritated when things didn't go her way. But here she was, painting herself as some kind of gentle guardian of traditional values. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them. Like gospel. Like she believed every syllable. I scrolled down to the comments, expecting a few heart emojis from other women. What I saw instead was something else entirely. Her audience was almost entirely male. And they weren't just watching, they were worshipping. One wrote, "If only my ex thought like this." Another said, "You've restored my hope in women." There were dozens like that. This is wife material. You're everything a man dreams of. You understand us better than we understand ourselves. Comment after comment, men poured their admiration into that comment box like it was a confessional. They opened up about failed marriages, emotional pain, years of feeling ignored, and how she made them feel seen. Some called her an angel. Some asked if she was single. Some didn't even bother asking and just said they wished they were married to her. And then I saw something that made my heart stop. Pinned at the top was her own comment, thanking her viewers for their support. She signed it off with a line I'll never forget. "Let's keep showing the world what real connection looks like." No mention of me. No wedding ring in sight. Nothing to suggest she wasn't available. That was when the first layer of confusion peeled back. I clicked on another video. Same soft delivery. Same glow. Same message. But this one was titled, "How to Greet Your Man When He Walks Through the Door." She acted out the entire scene, gently getting up from the couch, smiling, meeting him at the door with kind eyes and open arms. "Make him feel wanted," she said. That small moment sets the tone for everything else. And again, the comments were flooded with men saying, "I'd give anything for a woman like you." I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until the third video ended. I closed the laptop, sat in silence. The strange part? I wasn't angry yet. I wasn't even sure what I was feeling. Because technically, she hadn't done anything wrong. Not yet. She hadn't lied, not outright. She was speaking in general terms, never saying she wasn't married, but never saying she was, either. It was omission by design. Intentional ambiguity. She crafted an image of the dream woman, supportive, understanding, beautiful, wise. The woman who doesn't nag. The woman who listens. The woman who smiles through storms and trusts her man to lead. That woman didn't exist. Not in our house. Not in our marriage. And yet thousands of men thought she did, and they loved her for it. I sat there for a long time, thinking about how many nights she'd filmed while I made dinner or washed up after work. How many weekends I'd encouraged her to keep going, to stay consistent, to give it her all. I didn't realize I was building a stage for her to become someone else, someone she only pretended to be when the camera was rolling. Someone who, for the right follower count, didn't have a husband at all. I didn't confront her that night. She got home late, gave me a kiss on the cheek, and went straight to editing. I just nodded, pretending I hadn't seen anything. But I'd already made up my mind. I was going to keep watching. And the next time she went live, I'd be ready. She started the blog right after getting fired. That was the spark. One Wednesday afternoon, she came home earlier than usual, dropped her bag on the kitchen floor, and just stood there looking dazed. She didn't cry, didn't rage, didn't even explain it at first. Just said they were making cutbacks and her position was the easiest one to dissolve. It wasn't her fault, but that didn't seem to make it hurt any less. She'd worked for that company for 5 years. Nothing flashy, just a mid-sized media consultancy that produced content around emotional wellness and psychology. She was behind the scenes most of the time, editing blog articles, writing copy for Instagram posts, moderating live chats during panel webinars. She knew the language of self-help better than anyone I knew. And now she was unemployed. At first, she kept herself busy with little things, reorganizing the spice rack, baking bread from scratch, color-coding her bookshelf. I figured she just needed time. But after about a month, I started noticing the way she stared at her phone a little too long, how she'd scroll through job boards without clicking anything. She seemed adrift, like she had no anchor. I tried to be supportive, giving her space, but also letting her know we were fine financially and she didn't need to rush back into anything. One night, over dinner, she finally said what had been on her mind. She wanted to create something. Not just a side hustle, but a space that felt like hers, something with purpose. I assumed she meant freelancing or maybe starting a podcast. But a few days later, she brought it up, starting a blog on Instagram. She wanted to talk about relationships, emotional intelligence, all the things she used to write about from behind the scenes. Only now, she wanted to be the face of it. I won't lie, it sounded ambitious. But her eyes lit up in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. I could tell it mattered to her, and honestly, I wanted to see her excited again. So I backed her completely. The next weekend we went out and bought everything she needed: camera, mic, ring light, tripods, softboxes, sound panels. I let her pick out everything herself, even when the price tags made me wince a little. She was meticulous, reading reviews out loud in the store, comparing specs, testing gear in her hands like she'd done it 100 times before. The total came out to more than I'd ever spent on anything that wasn't a car or a couch, but I didn't hesitate. We went home, unpacked everything, and started turning our guest room into her mini studio. I painted the far wall a soft cream color so her skin would pop on camera. She hung a few minimalist prints behind her filming chair, carefully positioned a stack of curated books and a faux plant beside her to look intellectual but cozy. I even helped her set up sound-dampening foam in the corners to kill echo. The lighting was tricky. We spent 2 evenings testing warm versus cool tones, adjusting the position of the ring light so her eyes would catch that signature circle glow. She practiced talking to the lens like it was an old friend. She'd film test clips and then play them back for me, asking if she came across as natural. At the time, it felt like we were building something together. She started small. A couple of reels a week, mostly about communication in relationships, how to avoid conflict spirals, how to listen actively, how to reconnect after distance. The production quality was excellent, and her delivery was confident. She spoke slowly, with soft eye contact and a gentle rhythm that made you feel like she was reading your mind. I didn't really watch the content, just saw bits here and there when she edited in the living room. But I knew enough to know she was good. I saw the comments rolling in, the follower count creeping upward, and the thumbnails evolving into these calming, sage-like portraits of her against a softly lit backdrop. Then she started gaining traction. One reel unexpectedly blew up, something about the 4 mistakes women make in relationships. It hit Instagram's Explore page, and within a week, she had 20,000 new followers. Suddenly, she had an audience. Not a tiny niche, but a real, loyal following. She leaned into it, launched a second upload day, created a Patreon for bonus content, set up a branded email for sponsorships. She started getting PR boxes from skincare companies, emails from journaling apps asking for a shout-out, even a few invites to co-host mental health panels. She was turning it into a business, and I was proud. I bragged to coworkers that my wife was becoming an influencer. I didn't realize I was helping build something that would later leave me completely out of the picture. Over time, I noticed her tone was subtly shifting, less about women's growth and more about how misunderstood men were, how modern relationships had failed because women weren't letting men lead. She quoted evolutionary biology, cited studies about testosterone and stress, talked about how men needed peace, not pressure. She wasn't wrong, exactly, but it felt off. I didn't know yet who her audience had become. Not really. She didn't talk much about analytics. Just said she was growing fast and needed to stay consistent. What I didn't know then was that her follower base had shifted almost entirely male. I thought the blog was for women, empowering, therapeutic. But the men had taken over. They saw her as the voice of reason in a sea of noise. She became the anti-influencer. The woman who got it. The one who told them they were right to want loyalty, softness, structure. I didn't question it. Not yet. I kept supporting her. I'd cook while she edited. I'd keep the house quiet during filming. I built her a second backdrop wall when she wanted to diversify her sets. She kept telling me how grateful she was, that this never could have happened without me, that I was her rock. At the time, I believed her. I thought we were a team, that we were building a platform together, even if I wasn't in front of the camera. It hadn't occurred to me that she was becoming someone else entirely to the people watching her. Someone who never mentioned being married. Someone who presented herself as emotionally available, grounded, and free. Someone who looked into the lens and said, "You deserve a woman who sees you," without ever once saying, "I already have a husband." But I hadn't watched those reels in full yet. I hadn't read the comments, hadn't seen the username she was replying to, or the tone of her responses. I just kept paying the bills, supporting the dream, helping her become the woman thousands of men were slowly falling in love with. I thought I was helping her heal from losing her job. I didn't realize I was funding the fantasy version of her that would eventually erase me from the story. I don't know what made me watch the live stream that night. Maybe it was the fact that I'd been hearing her rehearsing snippets out loud for days. Maybe it was something in my gut, or maybe I just wanted to understand what kind of person she'd become in front of the camera. She'd been doing these live streams every Sunday evening for months, and from what I gathered, they were interactive Q&A sessions, just her and her followers, answering their relationship dilemmas, giving feedback, asking deeper questions. But until that night, I had never sat through one start to finish. This time, I didn't tell her I'd be watching. She was in the filming room, door slightly ajar, ring light humming behind it. I pulled up her Instagram on my phone while lying on the couch, volume low and brightness dimmed. I had no idea what I was about to hear. She opened with her usual calm tone, thanking everyone for being there, for showing up consistently. She smiled, that soft, knowing kind of smile that used to be reserved for me alone. There were hearts flooding the comment stream instantly. Fire emojis. Roses. "We missed you. My favorite hour of the week. Teach us, Queen." She read out a few messages, nodding, offering little responses that made the viewers feel like they were being personally acknowledged. It was strange watching her through a screen, in the same house, just one room away, but talking like she lived in an entirely different world. A man asked how to get over trust issues after his ex had cheated. She told him that men were naturally wired to want stability, that betrayal rewired their capacity for vulnerability, and it takes a truly rare woman to rebuild that. But they exist, she added. They really do. Women who will fight to earn a man's trust and protect it like gold. You just have to hold out for the one who sees your value. Another asked if modern relationships were broken beyond repair. She laughed gently and said, "Honestly, if I told you how many women are emailing me right now asking how to keep a good man, you'd feel a lot better. The ones who get it, they're out there. They're just quiet. But they're watching." It went on like that for a while. Harmless enough. Even sweet, in a calculated way. But then came that question. It was buried between dozens of flying comments. But she paused, tapped the screen to hold it, and read it slowly. "Are you with anyone right now?" She smiled, tilted her head slightly. There was a moment of deliberate silence. Then she said, "I'm still waiting for someone worthy." My heart stopped. She didn't blink, didn't laugh it off, didn't clarify anything, just smiled into the camera while the comment section went into a frenzy. He better treat you like a queen. Your future man is one lucky dude. Worthy? Girl, you're the prize. Where do I apply? She read a few out loud, laughed softly, and then added, I believe in timing. I believe we all meet the people we're meant to when we're ready to really see them. I'm open. I'm patient. I know what I bring to the table. It was said with the confidence of someone fully detached from any previous commitment. Like she was single, available, on the market. In that moment, I felt like I'd been erased. Not ignored, erased. I sat on the couch in total silence, staring at the little screen in my hand as 1,000 men flooded the comments with hearts and admiration, building fantasies around a woman who'd just rewritten her relationship status to an audience of strangers while her actual husband was sitting in the next room. It was one thing to talk vaguely about love and trust and energy, but this was different. This was direct. This was intentional. She wanted them to believe she was waiting for someone better, someone worthy, and she said it without a second of hesitation. That one sentence hit harder than any insult ever could. Not because she said it, it was how she said it. Like it was the truth. Like it had always been true. I sat there until the end of the live stream, just watching. She signed off with her usual warmth, blowing a kiss to the camera and thanking her audience for making this space feel like home. Then I heard her push her chair back. The light clicked off in the studio. She came out a few minutes later, still glowing from the adrenaline, and saw me in the kitchen. I asked how the stream went. She said it was good, steady turnout, lots of engagement. Then she kissed me lightly on the shoulder, told me she was starving, and started pulling leftovers from the fridge like it was just another night. Like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't just watched my wife tell 20,000 strangers that she was still on the hunt for someone better. I didn't say anything. I wasn't ready. But that moment rewired something in me. I started thinking differently, moving differently. I couldn't unhear those words. Couldn't unsee the comments. Couldn't ignore the way she had slowly peeled me out of her public identity like I was just a rough draft of the man she wanted to attract. I began to wonder, if she was this comfortable lying to them, what else was she hiding from me? And worse, was I the only one she was lying to? She left her laptop open by accident. That's all it took. Just one small oversight. She'd been careful for so long. Always closed it, always cleared tabs, always quick to shut it when I walked in the room. But that afternoon, she was rushing out the door to pick up a few things for dinner and didn't close it like she normally did. The screen was glowing on the kitchen island, lid half cracked, Instagram open in a browser tab. And for once, I didn't hesitate. Something inside me had already shifted since that live stream. I'd been carrying the weight of that moment. I'm still waiting for someone worthy, like a stone in my chest. I had questions, not the kind you ask out loud and get real answers to. The kind you quietly start chasing on your own. And now, the door was cracked open. So I stepped through. The tab showed her direct message inbox. I expected a few fan replies. Maybe one or two flirtatious compliments she hadn't responded to. What I found instead made my pulse go cold. She had dozens of active conversations. All with men. Most of them were under usernames I didn't recognize. Some had real names. Some were just initials or anonymous handles. But it wasn't the volume that stunned me. It was the tone. Flirty, suggestive, personalized. She wasn't ignoring the messages. She was engaging them, playing along, feeding the illusion. A man from Austin had messaged her a week ago. If you ever want to visit Texas, I'll be your tour guide. She replied, I've always loved Southern hospitality. Another from Chicago said, I'd marry you tomorrow if I could. She answered, that's flattering, but you'd have to earn me. One thread stretched back nearly a month, daily messages, voice notes, little selfies she never posted publicly. Not revealing, not explicit, but intimate in a curated way. Shots of her coffee mug beside her legs. A close-up of her lips with a caption, thinking. There were pet names, private jokes, emotional check-ins. She asked how their days were. Cheered them on at job interviews. One man even vented about his divorce, and she responded with a paragraph about how modern women have lost their way and how rare it is to find a man like him. She knew exactly what to say to make them feel seen. She was good at it. Too good. There was a rhythm to the manipulation. Never too eager. Always just elusive enough to keep them chasing. She never admitted to being single, but she never admitted to being married, either. She operated in that soft, blurred space between fantasy and realism. She was the dream woman, because she told each man what he most wanted to believe. I kept scrolling. It wasn't just strangers. There were two recurring names who stood out, men she messaged late at night. Sometimes around the time we were both in bed. I recognized one of the names from her comment section. He left hearts under almost every post. She called him sweetheart in the DMs, told him she felt safe talking to him. Another man had sent her money through a donation link. She recorded a personal thank you message, nothing private, just her speaking directly to the camera. "You're helping me grow this space," she said. "You're the reason I get to keep doing what I love." No mention of me. No mention of us. Just her, him, and the illusion that they were building something together. I clicked into her saved drafts folder. There were scripts, notes, even templates for replies. Things like, "Thank you for your message, men like you give me hope." And, "If we lived closer, I'd want to hear all your stories in person." She'd written a system, a strategy, a way to scale intimacy for mass consumption. I sat back, numb. It wasn't just deception. It became a business model built on illusion. A carefully crafted persona designed to attract emotionally vulnerable men, draw them in with soft-spoken truths, and keep them invested with money, time, and affection. And I was footing the bill. The equipment, the lighting, the house that made her background aesthetic so cozy and appealing. I was the husband funding the fantasy of his own absence. I couldn't even describe what I felt. Rage didn't quite cover it. Disgust wasn't enough. It was betrayal, yes, but also humiliation. She didn't just lie. She branded the lie, monetized it, and thanked strangers for helping her do it while she curled up next to me at night. I closed the laptop slowly, like I was shutting the lid on something toxic. She came back about 20 minutes later with bags of groceries, humming softly to herself. Asked if I could help her preheat the oven. I did. My hands moved on their own. She had no idea what I'd seen. No idea what was brewing behind my eyes as she chopped vegetables and talked about some new content series she was planning. Said she wanted to make more space for emotional transparency with her followers. I remember nodding, smiling, not because I believed her, but because I wanted to see how deep she'd keep digging before I dropped the truth. After that afternoon, something in me went completely still. Not broken, not explosive, just still. Like when you realize the fight isn't worth yelling about anymore because you're already standing at the finish line. They just don't know it yet. I didn't confront her that night, or the next. In fact, I played it cool, smiled more, laughed when she recapped her content ideas. I even told her one of her recent posts was really smart. She lit up at the compliment, probably thinking I was finally taking an interest in her blog. I was, just not in the way she thought. I started documenting everything, quietly, thoroughly. I knew I couldn't just scream at her and expect a clean resolution. She'd twist it, cry, maybe even make herself the victim. I'd seen how good she was at crafting a narrative. She built an entire following by presenting herself as a wise, feminine voice in a cold modern world. I was not about to walk into her frame and play the villain. So I opened a private folder, labeled it something neutral. And every time she left the house, or took a long shower, or fell asleep before me, I added to it screenshots of her DMs, full-screen recordings of her most flirtatious comment threads, clips from her live streams, especially the one where she said she was still waiting for someone worthy. I saved it all. No edits, no exaggeration, just facts. I also recorded a few behind-the-scenes moments, like when she rehearsed voice notes for one of the men she'd been messaging. Her tone would shift ever so slightly when she spoke to them, softer, sweeter, and she always checked herself in the mirror before hitting record, like it mattered more than anything else. There was one night I'll never forget. She was curled up in bed beside me, whispering into her phone with her AirPods in. Thought I was asleep. I wasn't. She was sending voice replies. I couldn't hear his end, but I heard her say, "You always know exactly what to say to make me feel seen." Then a pause. Then, "No, I'm still figuring things out. It's complicated." That was all I needed. I waited until she left the room, pulled up her Instagram, and took a screenshot of the DM. She'd sent that same line, "It's complicated," to 3 different men over the last 2 weeks. She rotated stories, personalities, even emotions. It was like she had a spreadsheet in her head of which fantasy belonged to which follower. I started timing things, tracking who she replied to and when. I noticed that whenever she got a donation, she'd follow up with something more personal. A longer message, a private selfie, A voice note. Sometimes she'd call them darling or my favorite, nothing too direct, but just enough to keep the illusion alive. Meanwhile, I kept playing the part of the supportive husband. I made coffee while she filmed, took out the trash, cleaned the kitchen while she hosted her Sunday live streams. She thought things were finally stabilizing. I could tell. She was lighter on her feet, more affectionate, almost smug, like she'd gotten away with it, or maybe like she never expected me to pay attention in the first place. And honestly, she wasn't wrong. For months, I hadn't. I believed in her too much, trusted too easily. I thought her success was something we built together, but she had used that trust to build an entirely separate life, one where I didn't exist. And the worst part was, her followers weren't the only ones buying the lie. She was starting to believe it too. Her messages had started shifting. Less teasing, more emotional. She was opening up to these men, talking about her loneliness, about how real connection feels rare these days. She told one man she sometimes wondered what her life might have looked like if she'd made different choices. Another she told, "You feel like home in a way I didn't know I needed." I didn't even recognize her anymore. And yet, she still shared my bed, still wore the ring I gave her, still sat across from me at dinner, asking how my day went, nodding like she cared. I wasn't dealing with a wife anymore. I was dealing with a character, a persona. And I knew there was only one way to destroy a persona: remove the mask in front of the audience. That's when the idea started forming. If she wanted to live online, fine. That's where the truth would live too. I began designing the setup. Nothing fancy, just effective. A screen recording software that would let me show the messages without ever touching her phone again. A capture of her follower list, timestamps, video clips, donations, DMs. All arranged in one clean, chronological file. I even practiced what I'd say. Rewrote it 3 times. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to insult her. I was going to tell the truth. Plain and slow. The way she always claimed she wanted people to speak in relationships. I wasn't sure when I'd do it, but I knew how. And once I knew how, it was only a matter of time before I hit record. She scheduled her Sunday live stream like always. Same time, same glow, same performance. Only this time, she wouldn't be the one talking. She was at the grocery store when it happened. Said she wanted to pick up some last-minute ingredients so she could cook after the stream. A cozy night in. Like nothing was wrong. Like the version of her that whispered into other men's phones didn't exist the second the ring light turned off. But I had already set the stage. Her ring light was already on. Her backdrop was already framed. Her laptop was open, microphone tested. I didn't use her phone. I didn't fake her voice. I logged into her Instagram through her browser because I knew the password. Because I had access. Because I had earned it a long time ago, before the followers and the filters and the curated lies. I clicked Go Live. And the numbers started climbing. Fast. The hearts started flowing. Her fans were ready. She's early. OMG, we love you. Can't wait for this one. Only it wasn't her face they saw when the stream loaded. It was mine. No ring light glow. No soft smile. Just me. Calm. Focused. Unblinking. I let the comments fly for a moment. Some confused. Some laughing nervously. Some assuming it was a joke. Then I spoke. "I'm not here to cause drama," I said, my voice even. "I'm here to give you the full story, something she hasn't." The stream froze for a beat. Then it exploded. Who is this? What's going on? Where's she? Wait, is that her husband? I held up the screenshots. Slowly. One by one. Full names redacted. Context intact. "You told her you'd marry her tomorrow," I said, showing one DM. "She said you'd have to earn her." A wave of silence rolled over the chat. "You sent her money," I continued, flipping to the next. "She sent you a private thank you video. Said you're the reason she gets to do what she loves." I didn't shout. I didn't mock. I just read. Comment by comment. Message by message. All from her inbox. All from her page. All real. "She told you she was looking for someone worthy," I said. "She told you she felt seen. She told you she wished things were simpler." Then I stepped back and let the camera catch the full view. The lights. The props. The gear. "I bought all of this," I said. "Every piece of equipment. Every backdrop. Every paid ad. Every boost. I built the platform she used to erase me." The comments were chaos. Some furious. Some shocked. Some in complete denial. But they were watching. And they weren't looking at her the same way anymore. "She isn't who you think she is," I said quietly. "She's not single. She's not searching. She's not someone waiting for a worthy man. She's someone who had a husband, one who cooked for her while she filmed, who kept her bills paid so she could heal, who kissed her goodnight while she told strangers she felt alone. I let it hang, just for a second. Then I ended the stream. No final speech. No dramatic mic drop. Just one click. Silence. She came home 20 minutes later, bags in hand, confused by the notifications on her phone. I didn't say a word. She rushed to her laptop, saw the comments still flooding in under her last post, her DMs full of confused messages, people asking who I was, others posting screenshots from the stream. And then she turned to me. Finally. But I was already by the door. I didn't yell. Didn't cry. I just looked at her and said, "You wanted a platform. Now you have the truth on it." Then I left. Haven't spoken to her since. Word travels fast and space is built on image. She lost nearly half her following in 3 days. A sponsorship dropped her by the end of the week. Her comments turned from adoration to interrogation. Her posts went dark. She tried to explain once, in a story she later deleted, said it was a miscommunication, that she was processing things privately. But by then, the curtain was down. Her fans didn't want the fantasy anymore, because now they knew there was a man behind the camera all along and she'd been lying to a lot of us. Was I cruel for telling the truth, or was I just finally honest?